Let us start. There's quite a handful. Okay, first one. First one and second question are combined together because they are in a way connected. Would you please explain about the wind and the wind element, Vayu Dhatu? Would you please explain about the wind and the vibration? Number two, and the next question. Why Mahasi method uses rising, falling of the abdomen as the main object and not the breathing? Okay. All right. Now, here, what is the wind element? When we say wind, when we use the word element here, especially in the Theravada tradition, there are different way of how we can look at it. Whether it's a normal wind, also we can consider that as an element, depending on the context. There are these wind element that we use as samatha meditation also. But then they are not looking into its characteristic. They're just using a wind element as one of the four elements to develop certain meditation, certain samatha meditation. In this way, in the vipassana way, we use the wind element to look into the characteristic. It is the characteristic that we are looking into it, then it will turn into vipassana. Now, what do you mean by the characteristic of this wind element? Characteristic here of the wind element is motion. Anything that is moving. Okay? Even that your arms are moving. The Buddha even categorized there are 6 types of wind element within this body. Breathing is one element. What else? Rising, abdominal rising and falling is another element. Okay. Bowel stomach, your intestine and everything that's moving around also is another kind of element. They call it another one upwind. Upwind means that if something, for example, you spit something out, or something like from your stomach, it regurgitates and then it come out and then you burp, upwind. They also call another one is downwind. Downwind is like when you pass gas, for example, or something that's moving. There's also another wind element. It's the motion of the body, that you're walking, movement of the arms, everything that is moving in the body. That is another kind of wind element. Now, in the practice, we cannot use the upwind or downwind because you cannot feel it. You cannot be waiting for you cannot. So we cannot, but we know that is one of the element, but we cannot use it for meditation object, main meditation object, because they are not there all the time. So it left us with 3 types of wind. In breath, out breath, belly motion, the belly, not the internal intestine, because that also you cannot feel the motion, the movement. So you have one, two, and the motion of the arms and legs and so on. So basically you have these 3. Now, any form of motion, whether it's whichever the motion they have the characteristic of motion, moving. Yeah. What that, and then of course, if you want to go into a, what does it move? It moves the other three elements. Yeah, correct lah. So because you're walking, cannot be your water element still back there, and then your, you know, it moves. It takes everything and move together. So it takes the whole body and move together. So in Abhidhamma, it says that when we talk about earth element, it has the characteristic of support. What does it support? It supports the other three elements. So when they talk about wind element, what does it move? It moves the other three elements together. Uh, Now, when we look at elements, there are elements also you must look from two extreme, and something that is stopped is opposite. Just like, for example, when you are heat element or the fire element, then you feel the warmness and the coolness. Two different, but they falls under fire element. So to wind element, also the same thing. They have a motion, and sometimes they call it distension, tension. You just sometimes put it simple that it stopped. Sometimes in a way that sometimes it feels like its stiffness is somewhat there also. Uh, uh, so this belongs to the wind element. So don't think that wind element is just only everything that is moving. You are correct for one part of it, but the other one of it and everything in between. That means faster movement, slower movement, very slow movement, not movement is still. So there's a variation of this wind element. Yogi will see them for themselves. Okay? Now, so these are the characteristics of the wind element. And also within that wind element, sometimes things changes a little bit faster, then it comes in as vibration. Sometimes you notice that the motion of the belly, your rising and falling, it comes staggered 2 or 3 times. For some, you vibration, something vibrate there, something like pulsating there. Huh? So some yogis, you may see it staggered, you may see it vibrating a little bit, all falls under wind element. So that's why during interview, don't report to me, next time. In future, don't report to the teachers that I note the wind element. Then, which are you talking about? Are you talking about your breath? Are you talking about rising, falling? Are you talking about walking? Specifically, what is that? So it's always good that we use the common language. Use the common language to indicate exactly what you pay attention to. So these are its characteristic of that wind element. Mahasi method. The second question is that why did Mahasi method, the type that we are doing over here, this is the Mahasi method, uses when they're sitting, the primary object is the rising and falling. But why did Mahasi Sayadaw uses the rising and falling and not the in-breath, out-breath? There's also a few reasons because of this. Um, but then just make sure that you don't ever think that Mahasi method is just rising and falling. That is really have a wrong misconception about the whole practice itself, because sometimes there are yogis thought that doing Mahasi method means that this is the most important, and then walking is not important, sitting, touching, pain not important, thinking not important, and all that not important. Sit down and they just want to do sitting and rising, falling is the only important thing. So misconception can come in, and therefore when it goes into their practice, they also practice wrongly. Mainly during in the sitting, the Mahasi Sada also mentioned, this is the primary object, and the rest are also secondary object. Secondary object, when they are prominent, you pay attention to them. That's what he's. But a lot of times, yogis misquoted how the Mahasi intended the practice to be. So now, why did we choose the rising and falling for a beginner practice, for a beginner practitioner? Now, I emphasize again here, beginner practitioner. Because when you are advanced, it doesn't matter which object you take, because the object is every object become clear to you. But beginners know. Beginners is not clear, everything is not clear, right? Now, you see, in our experience, we know that development for long-term development, development, you need something close. There's something the mind you can able to feel it. You can able to feel the motion for a longer period of time. And we use the again here we use the wind element compared to other elements. And why is the wind element more suitable? Because motion is easier for the mind to pay attention to compared to a stationary object. A stationary object is not so easy to pay attention to. And those objects are also not there all the time. You cannot be waiting for the pain to come in, do you? Nurse to come in somewhere, do you? You cannot. So you sit down, you already must have some object for you to hold on to. Now, Mahasi Sayadaw recommend rising and falling. One thing that we know that rising, falling in the long run, or even in the short run for some yogis, it's more clearer than the in-breath, out-breath. The characteristics that pick up on it, it's clearer. Because we are going into looking into the characteristic. When compared to in-breath, out-breath, it's easier for the in-breath, out-breath for you to feel calm, peaceful. But it's difficult for you to catch hold of the characteristic. Because once the mind is calm and peaceful, especially for then there's no effort to really to look for those things. So rising and falling one way is that by experience with the yogis, they find that the rising and falling, it's easier for yogis to develop direct vipassana. The another aspect is that nowadays, sometimes yogis come in with different types of meditation. You have in-breath, out-breath, you practice this and that. And some of us are very keen into in-breath, out-breath. But when you're keen in that in-breath, out-breath, most of the time, yogis practice it as a samatha object. Most of the time, they use this thing as a samatha object. So because of the habit has been formed, so every time you sit down, even we come to a vipassana object that you're a characteristic, because of the habit of the mind, it goes into quiet, peaceful. Habit, it's just because of a habit, quiet, peaceful. And then it doesn't want to look into the characteristic, it just stay there. So here, especially for beginners, we try to separate them. Not that in-breath, out-breath is a wrong object. It's not at all. But it's difficult for many yogis to look into its characteristic. Rising, falling is easier for beginner yogis. So When you begin to develop further and things are more clearer, then it's easier for you to notice all its deeper characteristics. And therefore, when it comes to, like yesterday, what I mentioned, when it comes to the arising and passing away, moment after moment, that time, in breath, out breath, rising, falling, anything does not matter anymore. You sit down, every arising, passing away, there for you to see. You cannot even differentiate which one is in breath, out breath, and which one is rising and falling, or which one is the mind, and so on. Everything goes into arising and passing away. So that time you don't have to do that. You don't have to be, you don't have to choose anymore. But it's the beginning part that is difficult. So, but of course, here we don't try to compare. Don't try to compare of what you read in the sutta 2,500 years ago. Those days, people's parami or people's the devotees, the monks, this one, they have been cultivated. I mean, for a long period of time. So it's different from nowadays. Okay, nowadays, from our experience, we find that the rising fall, looking for the characteristic is easier to decide for the beginners. Okay, next question. Can we use samadhi to bring the clarity of the mind first? Since I'm also learning Brahma Vihara and Anapanasati with my other Buddhist teachers, is it contradicted for beginners like me? Okay, can we use samadhi to bring the clarity of the mind first? Since I'm also learning Brahma Panasati with my other Buddhist teachers, it is contradictory for beginners like me. Well, theoretically speaking, not contradictory. In fact, that theoretically speaking, again, is encouraged, because whatever you have, the more the better. Theoretically, but practically, we are creatures of habit. Again, whenever you practice something, whether anapanasati or brahmavihara or direct vipassana, like over here, the mind tends to follow the way that it wants to do. This is not like as you like, you change your clothes. Yeah, you want to wear this, you wear that. You want to wear this. That simple for the mind to switch mental cultivation. We find that I'm not saying everybody cannot do. I'm saying most yogis cannot do. And if you're a beginner, it can be quite confusing when you have so many methods coming in together. You say that you want to start off with some samatha meditation, then you want to switch over. Can, not practically can. If you are advanced yogi, then possible you could do that. But if you are a beginner yogi, and that is something that you have to put aside. If you want to come to learn meditation, learn that meditation fully. Learn that meditation, adopt the practice, the method fully. Don't worry about your past teachers' teaching. Yes, they are still valid, not to say not valid. Something you got to put everything aside in order for you to learn something. Then when you go back or you go to the next retreat, you want to follow another method. Fine. Then you put this one, you put aside. Yeah. But the thing is that over time, is it possible for you to merge all of them together? That is another question. Because it is not as easy as it seems. As easy. Yeah. So for a beginner, usually we will advise you, if you come to this retreat, learn about the whole vipassana, because you need to feel the difficulty, the unpleasantness, the dukkha, and all that thing. Sometimes yogis, when they practice samatha, then once they taste the peacefulness, the calmness, difficult for them to look at the pain, excruciating pain itself. The whole mind is not stabilized. Once you feel the pain, the mind just want to get out from the pain. It cannot be there. And we've seen yogis like that in the past, many yogis in the past. Yeah. Next one. Next question. Okay. Also later, there's also a little bit on this samatha thing also, later. Huh? Okay, next one. Wow, so long. Okay. I was observing my knee pain directly face to face as you instructed. Okay. When it reached the most severe excruciating point, suddenly a thought came to my mind. I'm not the knee. The knee is not me. Okay. Then another thought came. I'm not the pain. The pain is not me. Okay. All right. Amazingly, I noted my mind was separated from my body, and immediately my pain subsided from 10 to 9 to 3 to 1. Right there, and then I realized I'm not my body, and I'm not my sensations either. Huh? 2 out of the 5 aggregates. Question. Did I just partially realize not? All right. So you experience like a separation of the mind and body a little, and the mind a bit. Yeah. Now, yes, I'm not saying that it is not. It is, but this time again, you feel it yourself. Now, here one thing is that when you come into vipassana practice, I know some of us, due to the concept or we have the understanding of Dhamma, theoretical understanding, and when we go into our practice, we want to put that thoughts on top of it. This, as I said, you got to be careful. Sometimes the thoughts, the intellectual thoughts, become overwhelming rather than you're supposed to see things as they are. But once in a while, this type of thoughts, it may trigger to see something like this. But it is long. You just see a partial glimpse of anatta. And it's not deep yet, this one. And it's not deep in the sense that it will come in for a short while and then it passes on. But that doesn't mean that it has changed your perception from I see anatta so that myself has gone. Not yet at all. Nothing done much here yet. It's like deep, It feels, this one feels deep, but actually it's not really deep yet. That's not to say that you are wrong again. I say, I'm not saying that you are wrong. You put it correctly that you find that there's a separation. Usually, when you notice a separation, there's something to do with anatta. It's all right, but don't get overjoyed over it. After you get overjoyed, oh yes, anatta, I have seen. Then after that, all your object all gone because of the excitement. Okay. Now, second one. I believe if I continue to meditate with vipassana, I will definitely positively realize I am not any of the other 3 aggregates: perception, mental activities, and consciousness either. Then I will fully realize the non. Is that correct? Question. Now, if I'm selfless, who is achieving or reaching Nibbana. Yeah. Wow. Wait. First of all, don't overstretch your thinking. You're overstretching a lot. Yeah. You're neither here nor there, but then you already laid out all your your progress and so on. It's not like that. Uh, Sometimes people felt that, you know, people felt that the anatta concept is easy to grasp by thinking, by intellectualization. In fact, that the concept itself is that, you see, you are conceptualizing non-self in the mind that full with self. You know, you just, it's no, non-self is a difficult understanding. Even for us, sometimes we thought that we can able to fully understood it well. But because the self very strongly inside us, and no matter how you reflect on non-self, it still go through the layer of self. You see what I mean? It's always that layer of self. It's always that it then that self, it will always shift you. The thing behind it is still with self there. And it's not as easy as we think it is. Because as I said again, thinking through the lens of self, even we are thinking of non-self. Because we are so used to self. When there's non-self coming in, we feel shocked because it's totally different. It's a different experience. It's an experience that can be shocking, and it can be, for some yogis, something is wrong with my practice, and yet they feel non-self. Just like I said, that you note their intention, and you, when the intention didn't come, your leg just stuck there somewhere in the middle. Then the yogi think that something wrong with my practice. But this is exactly is trying to show you the conditioning. When something does not arise, that also does not move. But when it comes in, the yogi feels shocked. How could that be? How come my meditation becomes something like that? How come my meditation becomes so robotic? How come my meditation is like not flowing anymore? And I say, when the non-self come in, you feel sometimes difficult. Even it shows you right in front. So because everything that we think of, we look from the perspective of self. But nevertheless, it is good that for us to understand some concept of non-self. It's still okay. But don't over, because sometimes some yogis thought that non-self already, oh, I non-self. Then at one time, they come to report to me, how? Bhante, because if they cannot use the word I anymore. They come, Bhante, these 5 aggregates, I notice these 5 aggregates notice the rising and falling. Wow, so deep. Because use the word I got self there, So sometimes you see, you misconstrue the whole understanding. They thought that after you have non-self, after you have non-self already, then next time whatever people say, I got no emotion anymore. I'm still like a rock like that. Everything I do is just like that. Like, it's totally not like that. It's totally not. You cannot function as a human being. you know. So don't as I said, this question, don't overthink about how the non-self and so on. It can be very, you can be misconstrued it all. Non, no control. That means you without control doesn't mean that. That's why again, when we see the I is always there. Your question, if I'm selfless, who is achieving nirvana? Again, you think that you are looking from the perspective of self. This is exactly what I meant here. There's no who or what because the question itself is wrong. You phrase the question wrongly. And sometimes, like the Buddha, read in the suttas, you phrase it wrongly, the Buddha cannot answer because the question is wrongly phrased. So this one is wrongly phrased. Yeah. It's not in that way. No, the next one. Question 2 also I cannot answer. If I achieve or realize or reach Nibbana, then where do I go from there? What should I do with my enlightenment? Wow. Let's say, just give you an idea. Even if you have enlightened, after that you still continue meditating. Yeah. You think after the Buddha enlightened, he shake legs? He still go around and teach. He still go for retreats, his own personal retreat. But why does an Arahant or a Buddha needs to go for a retreat? Uh, Even if you are a Sotapanna and you haven't finished yet, yes, the first stage of enlightenment take place. You have gone very far. Yes, in a way that it's far, but the Buddha says all the way to fully eradicate our defilements. So that is still far to go. So just don't think that what will I do with my enlightenment and all that thing. So practice first. Practice first. That's why sometimes we think that as questions, if you misunderstood the whole purpose of this enlightenment, you thought that you got enlightenment as if like you got a degree already, or PhD, and then you want to go out and teach and everybody, and you are sometimes I said the upakilesa can become nibbana if you believe it, all the wrong things you go and believe it, and then you thought that all these things are nibbana, and then you can go out and teach somebody also that, and also you accumulate all kinds of karma. Yeah. So a lot of your question, not this one. All right. Next one. What are the signs of ego or subtle ego? When it is aroused, what should I do? Just note the question of ego or subtle ego. Now, during in the meditation, now to understand ego, or the Pali word is mana, but the Pali word translate to an English word is not a good translation because the English conceit, pride, it only give you one level, whereas the word mana has three level. One level is the big pride now, like what we normally use it as pride. That we think ourselves is better than another person. We think ourselves is better than it's a comparative thing. We think ourselves that's better. Better can be all kinds of things. I'm more beautiful than you. I have more degree than you. My house is bigger than yours. I'm more wealthy than you. When you compare, so that one is you compare to somebody, and that the person is less than you. This is called the atimana, if I'm not mistaken. The Pali word is that you look at it as something, you're bigger, you're better. Then the second type of conceit, Mana. Think that yourself is smaller compared to another person. Uh, you are more wealthy than me. You are more good looking than me. Uh, Comparison. Then the next one is the compare you to the same level. I am the same as you. You are the same as me. With that, that is all come as conceit. In other words, with this one, when everything blows out of proportion, you call it racism. Racism. You call it all this. One race is better than the other one. One culture is better than the other culture. One color is better than another color. All this type of thing. And we are all of us have this conceit, one way or another. Even when you come into the monk's world, also the same thing, or the nun's world. When you stay in the monastery, you think everything is nice and calm and peaceful. No, conceit is always there. Then sometimes people conceit come in as because they study. Oh, he's much more better than all of the rest. And then pride comes in. Or some kids have been proclaimed by the teacher. Oh, that one got jhana. That one also got jhana. That one got number one jhana. That one got a fourth jhana. Oh, that fourth jhana feel ego. Ego is there. Even with the practice itself, conceit comes in many forms, many forms. And again, sometimes certain cultures, a certain culture in the world, we promote this conceit to be better, to be different, to be different from people, and so on. To be special, to be like the spotlight is always on them. So all these are all conceit, mana, and it plays in a different form. And it comes out in a different form. So, what should I do when it comes in the meditation? Now, when it comes in the meditation, it comes in as many ways. For example, sometimes when you meditate, you notice that your imagination or your concept, your vision comes out. Then you see yourself there. A lot of times you see ourselves there, what we are doing or what we are talking or thinking and so on. So sometimes with that, then we look at it as if like in the mind, we compare this and that. Then these are all in the form of have to do with conceit also. Sometimes my own sometimes in the past, meditate, then imagination come in. Then I'm there. I start to rescue people, Wow. And then I could able rescue, then I feel good inside there. Conceit. But all after that is all imagination. All inside is imagination. We thing. But all this creation has to do with the I. I am here. Or it has to do with somebody that is very connected to you inside the mind, it's created and so on. That all this like your conceit and so on, it fuels the thoughts. It fuels the thoughts, and the thoughts get more and more and more. So next time, many times, I said during the practice, don't go inside your story. But when you meditate long enough, you will see your story too. And you see that how certain of your imagination or your vision and how you think and so on have a certain theme. You have a certain theme. For example, greedy person, let's say, sit down, you think of food. Before you go back, you think of food. then how much food you're missing over here, you know? Or you're thinking that the food is so good and maybe I should get the menu, I should get all the ingredients and how to cook and all the recipe from them. Kind of like around that area, you know, around that is this one. Then, or if like if you are more engineering type of mind, then you sit down, this problem has to be done, that one have to be done, this one maybe have to do it this way, that way, this way. And then your thoughts are coming into different, around that area, you know, around that thoughts. So you will see long enough, you begin to know that how our inclination of our mind actually goes to. Although, as I mentioned, say, don't go inside your story, but your story is right in front. So long enough in the practice, you also see your own true nature of your own thoughts. So during the practice, even you see yourself, even you try to create a lot of things inside there, your job is just to note them. Don't try to. I know sometimes for us, when this type of we try to use our Dhamma knowledge, our Dhamma intelligence to calm the whole mind down. We don't want to see those things because sometimes it's quite ugly. But nevertheless, as a vipassana meditator, it's always good that go face to face, directly see them as they really are. For you to really to see the faults of our heart, faults of our mind. If you don't see it, we keep on suppressing it, then you still really do not know what is going on with the mind. Yeah? This one. Okay. Bhante, does every yogi have to go through the 10 upakilesa? If so, is this the final test to become Sotapanna? Okay, first one first. With the 10 imperfection or the 10 corruptions of insight. Now, does every yogi has to go through those things? You may not necessarily to go through all of them, but one of it may be prominent to you. One of it could be one or two or three can be prominent to you. Not all of them can be. Not all of them are there. But if you have a lot of judgment, perhaps you're going to have more. Say, for example, again here, some yogis, they may be very attached to the lights, the craving for the lights. They thought that the lights are deep nibbana, or the lights are very important for their practice and so on. Then you get attached to the lights, or they attach to the joy, or they attach to the pleasure of the mind. They're so pleasant, and then they don't want to get out of it. They just stay inside there. They don't want to pay attention to anything except enjoy it. Now, some people have this type of things more than other people or other yogis. As I said, as long as you don't crave for them, as long as you just keep noting, lights, seeing, whichever, then you're okay. Then that is not upakilesa. That it exists as just a phenomena only. Upakilesa is always the craving is there. When you note them, you pay attention to them, then it's not upakilesa. So, if this is the final test, no, it is not the. No, you're still far away. Now you see, doesn't mean that you develop towards further into the advance into the meditation. This calmness or joy still come in. Upakilesa also, as I said, one of it is strong mindfulness. Upakilesa also I mentioned is that a very balanced effort too. Upeka also kilesa. So all those things, you really need them for meditation. You really need them for development. But the thing is that as you advance further, those things you don't attach to them. It's very different from if you're a little bit practice and not much, too much advanced, and then we get attached to these things. Yeah? Even enlightenment, after enlightenment, for example, there are lights arises also. There are also joy arises, dukkha arises. It's just that they don't attach to them. Mm? Doesn't mean that this thing you don't see after enlightenment or whatever. You will still see them, but you don't have the craving for it. So here, as we practice this type of thing, don't attach to it. As your progress of your insight has developed, don't attach to all these type of things. Your job is just to note them and you'll go forward. If you don't note them, that's where you're going to stuck and you begin to think that you having nibbana and having everything. Mm? Mm. Okay? Mm. This one is even more There must be lots of people who realize Sotapanna or Sakadagami, first stage of enlightenment or second stage of enlightenment, in the previous lives under the Buddha, who are now in subsequent of rebirth. Can this practice, this vipassana, can this practice help them to remember that realization and progress further? Might these people find this practice easier? Okay. There must be lots of people who realize Sotapanna and Sakadagami in the previous life under the Buddha, who are now in the subsequent or final human rebirth. Can this practice help them remember that realization progress further? Might these be people who find this practice easier? You're asking a question that I do not know. How I'm going to know how many Sotapanna or Sakadagami born here, born in this life, this current time? Yeah? How do I know? They, they are not going to walk there with a ply card, carrying the Sotapanna. And they walk everywhere, Sotapanna. Or they tattoo in their forehead there, Sakadagami there. How are we going to know who is who? We don't have all the psychic power and all those things. It doesn't matter, actually. It doesn't matter. You're asking a question that nobody can really answer you. First of all, you're asking about whether they're going to reborn in this life or not. How are we going to know? This is not your area. You assume. You're assuming. But reality, we really do not know. You're assuming only. Yeah? Now, put it in a more simple manner. Let's say, in your past life, you have meditated before. In the past life, you have meditated before. And you have meditated quite advanced. Whether enlightenment or not, it does not matter, but quite advanced. And let's say this life, you so happen to reborn right now. And so happen that you meet with the Dhamma. And not only meet with the Dhamma, you meet with the meditation. And then you continue to practice the meditation. Can it become easier? In a way, I believe so, yes. You see, sometimes when they come to teach yogis, there are yogis so hard to teach. Like, even I knock the wall is easier. I talk to the wall also, the wall also will listen to me. And I talk to them, they have a totally have a instead that they misjudge or misunderstood the whole process at all. Sometimes they are so difficult to teach, and sometimes they are so stubborn. The mind is so hard. They got no space to open anymore. But sometimes, once in a while, we find that there are yogis who are, let's say, The moment you tell them this and that, you don't have to tell them much. The next interview, they come back, they tell you a lot of things. They just tell you rising, falling this way. I haven't really thought that those things, and perhaps but that's what the yogis sit down and the mindfulness is there. They are really able to describe what is really going on, and within a short while, their progress is quite well. Yeah. So how do all these things come in? Perhaps we believe previous life, perhaps they have done something good, some practice in the past, and in this life they meet again, then continue. Then maybe you look into yourself whether is your practice okay. Perhaps in the past we may have not done anything, so make sure this life we put in more effort. Uh, but you see, the teaching is not about future lives. The teaching of the Buddha is for your this life and your present life. He don't teach that, okay, you practice and wait for next life for you to become Arahant, or wait for next life until you become Sotapanna. No, he said this life everything can be done. It's just whether we want it or not. We want to put in the effort or not. But most of us as these or yogis cannot. Oh, too far away. Oh, so difficult. Oh, all your self-doubt, all your skeptical doubt, all there. How to go further? Yeah. All right. Hmm. This one another question. Also a lot of concept here. Yeah? A lot of thinking. Samasati, Satipatthana is the seventh factor of the noble right mindfulness. Right mindfulness, the seventh factor of the noble eightfold path. The eighth factor is Sama Samadhi. Sama Samadhi here is right concentration. Then the person bracket as jhana. How does this tradition understand the place of jhana in the realization of final liberation arahant? Are there people whom you know who have realized anagami and arahant using this practice you also practicing jhana? All right. How does this tradition understand the place of jhana in the realization of final liberation? Okay. Now, enlightenment, in the process of enlightenment through the teachings of the Theravada Buddhism, it comes in basically two ways. They call it the samatha yanika, or the samatha means that yanika means the vehicle by samatha or vehicle by direct vipassana. The samatha yanika here means that it combines both samatha meditation and vipassana meditation, and they have to. For the insight worker, or they call it in sometimes dry insight worker, this one only they uses vipassana meditation in order to achieve enlightenment. So they are both mentioned in the commentary of the past. Now, even with these two ways, now take for example, if you're a samatha practitioner, and let's say you practice it until the fourth jhana or fifth jhana, sixth jhana, seventh, eighth jhana, whichever jhana that you want, and you are actual jhana, because nowadays there's a lot of fake jhana also around the market. So you have, let's say, the genuine jhana, and he wants to come back to develop the mind towards enlightenment. So he has to drop the jhana, he has to come out of the jhana, and when he comes out of the jhana, he brings all his concentration, mindfulness, everything, switch the object from a samatha object into a vipassana object. When he switch the mind into a vipassana object, then it begins to note the qualities and the object too. And therefore, it begin to process of the progress of insight, like yesterday what I mentioned. it goes through all those things too. Doesn't mean that a samatha meditator don't go through the progress of insight and suddenly they can enlighten. There's no such thing. It has to come back, look into vipassana to see its quality, to see the anicca, dukkha, anatta in order for the realization of vipassana to take place. Okay, so this is one. Another way is only that you use vipassana meditation. You directly use vipassana meditation, not necessarily just what we are doing right now, because there are many types of vipassana meditation also. So finally, you still need that vipassana meditation in order to see the characteristics of what is going on, in order for us to see anicca, dukkha, anatta. So the thing is here, one comes with jhana, one comes without the so-called jhana, right? So how samadhi is going to fall into here? The sama samadhi, the right concentration is going to fall into here. Because you see, the thing that we normally don't discuss about the process of how the noting mind develops together with how the progress of your anicca, dukkha, anatta develops. Because in vipassana, the is more important. The knowledge, how you see the anicca, dukkha, anatta in various manner. Like yesterday, I give you a brief explanation. Different how we look at different dukkha, different anicca, different anatta in various ways. That one is more important because that one it directly cuts you out of from to realization of nibbana later on. But behind it, what I didn't tell you is the behind the scene that you notice this thing while you are going through all those things. This is where your kilesa are all being prevented from coming in. All your defilements are prevented from coming in. If defilements keep on coming in, like your restlessness, like your sloth and torpor, keep on coming in, how are you going to see all the truth? So all the kilesa is being prevented, and being prevented got to do with samadhi, concentration. And that concentration, it prevents all these things from coming in. And yet, the development of the concentration behind the scene, exactly like first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. Because there'll come to a time in the development on insight that the concentration itself, certain concentration itself, it exactly looks like the first jhana, where there's vitaka, vichara, piti, sukha. We're not going to go into dwell into all those things, but all the quality they have there. Take for example, simple example. You sit down. The moment that you sit down, all the qualities is running here and there for you to see. Without you go and direct the mind there. Even that you don't have to direct the mind there, the mind is already there. It knows how to note those objects. Then it comes into a deeper, slightly deeper aspect. Things, for example, I talk about the sukha, joy, and all that thing. That thing, the yogis will experience those things. And that has got to do connected with the joy and sukha also of the samatha, of the vipassana, which is similar to samatha. Then also I talk about when it comes into sankhara upeka, the one that just before enlightenment take place. That time there's no joy, this one is only concentration. At that time the mind is changing very clearly. Until with that, it looks like a fourth jhana. The concentration looks like a fourth jhana. But we are not really too bothered about that concentration because it's the knowledge of that formation of things as they are is more important. With that, liberation take place. So samadhi, sama samadhi is all behind it. There's no such thing as no sama samadhi. It's all inside there. if vipassana without the sama samadhi, then noble eightfold path cannot be achieved. So a lot of things are happening inside there. It's quite technical. I don't want to bore you with this. Yeah, it's quite technical. Uh, Something like that. So put it in a simple manner. Vipassana, there is also the deep concentration is there. And that deep concentration, sometimes we call it the momentary concentration. But again, here again, very technical term. If you don't explain it, then I mean in other talks, in other retreats, I explain all this type of thing because I got 3 months to talk. I got need to talk something. If not, how am I going to finish the 3 months? Like 1 week, there's like 5 talks, 4 talks, 4+1 Q&A. That's one. So there's a lot of talks. So sometimes I spend my time talk about this type of technical stuff, just for understanding. So Sama Samadhi is all inside there. There's no such thing as no Sama Samadhi. It's just that sometimes we want to interpret it as just jhana, first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, on the typical type of samatha jhana. But we haven't seen pasana jhana yet. Huh? Yes.
Are you equating momentary concentration similar to jhana?
In a way, yes. But again, here, the momentary concentration has different level. Because what is it being associated with? Is it associated with upeka, or is it associated with sukha, or associated with piti? With these things are also associated during in the practice of insight as you progress also. So there's no such thing as none. So again, it become very complicated. All right. Okay, then that's one. Wait. There's one more. Are there people whom you know have realized using the practice that you teach without also practicing jhana? Don't ask me this question. My job is to guide you rightly. My job is not to proclaim anyone to be anagami or arahant or sotapanna and all these things. It's not my job. This job of the Buddha or other teachers. They want to proclaim you is their choice. But if you come to me after even you practice for some time, but have I achieved sotapanna or not? My answer is that keep on practicing. Keep on practicing. My job is make sure that you don't go in the wrong path. If you know in the right path, you do it, you finally reach it. And we don't stop there. After that we carry on meditating more. My job is to make sure that you don't do the wrong things, the wrong practice. I'm not here to proclaim people to be arahant or anagami, but I've seen the consequences of teachers when they do that. As I said that day, if the teacher make a wrong judgment, it's going to kill the spiritual path of that yogi or the person. It's dangerous, really dangerous. You begin to believe that you're arahant, and one day you notice that your defilements are still there. Your ego is still there. Your greed is still there. Your joy is still there. Then the teacher says something, I feel something. Now how? It's going to be a very, very much entanglement for the yogi or for the person. So as I said, there are people, it really kills off their spiritual development, their spiritual endeavor, and so on. I practice so much and then I don't get anything. So much expectation is there. Okay. Next question. Wow, y'all must be read a lot. Huh? In Anguttara 4.0, oh, you can very specific. Yeah. In Anguttara 4.163, the Buddha spoke of four modes of practice: painful with slow or quick realization, yeah, abhinya, and pleasant with slow or quick realization. Painful way is working with observation, anupassi, sanya. Pleasant way is with jhana. It seems that the tradition has chosen the painful way. Why? It seems that this tradition that what we do, choosing the painful way. I think you have got all this understanding totally uh, not really correct. After I explain. Now, and granted that this is your preference, besides the way of samatha, which is Buddha said is superior. Uh, First of all, before I answer the first question, just to let you know, I do not criticize samatha meditation. In fact, on my personal term, on my personal own meditation, I practice anapana also. I practice for months anapana. Yeah. Just anapana without the rising and falling as a samatha object, not as, as a samatha. I don't criticize at all. I practice. How could I criticize? I practice metta. I practice karuna. I practice all kinds of meditation because I have the time. You have to work. I have the time. I've got all the time to meditate. So I do all these things, so I don't criticize at all. So don't misunderstood it. I said many times, I said samatha has got its own power. But for the sake of, it's not easy for many yogis to overlap everything together. Yeah. One meditation, you already have a hard time. If I create more 2 or 3 meditation, you're going to entangle everything inside there. They'll learn nothing much. Yeah. We take one thing first. One thing first. Not to say that I don't practice. I practice it a lot of on this, and also samatha and so on. Now, in the beginning of your question, you mentioned about the 4 modes of practice. Now, in the 4 modes of practice, let me put it simple for you. The Buddha divided our development, our progress into 4 ways, 4 types. There are those who are what you called um, difficult and no, what difficult, easy. The another one is the what's the word I forgot? Difficult, easy, and fast and slow. Okay, put it this way. Difficult, easy, fast, and slow. What is mean by difficult? What is mean by fast? What do you mean by slow? So because of these 4 modes, it combines into 4 type of yogi, how they progress. The first one is the one that is difficult and slow. Okay, difficult and slow. Then the second one, the difficult and slow, difficult and easy. Okay, now the third one, easy and slow. Fourth one, easy and fast. Hey, the second one is difficult and fast. All right, difficult and fast. So the first one, repeat again. Difficult and slow. All right. Second one is difficult and fast. The third one is easy but slow. Then the fourth one, easy and fast. Okay. Now, here what it means over here is this. What it means by difficult and easy. Here it depends on your defilements. your kilesa. Depending on your kilesa, one thing. Fast and slow, it depending on your wholesome quality, which is here is the wisdom factor. The chief factor is the wisdom factor. And of course, the mindfulness and everything and so on. So, if you are slow and difficult, it means that your defilements is very strong and your wholesome mind are weak. Your noting mind and all that are very weak. So when you start to progress, so much defilement and difficult for you to notice. Then the progress difficult and slow. But there are people who are defilements are strong, but yet the wholesome mind also strong. That means that when they go into meditation, the kilesa, although they are there, but because the mind is sharp, it can able to notice a lot of things. He progressed quite well. He progressed quite well, although he has to go through a lot of difficulty. Difficult and slow. Difficult here does not mean pain now. Your buttock pain, your knee pain, here pain, there pain. This is not what it meant in the book. This is not how you interpret it. You interpret it as uh, painful with slow. The word painful, you take it directly. No, it's not in that sense. It's not here pain, there pain. The painful means you have a difficulty to progress. Other translation translate as difficult. Some translation as painful, but it's not painful. It's just difficult for you to progress because of your defilements are so much. A lot of thinking, a lot of sleepiness, a lot of doubt, a lot of greed, a lot of anger. Then the whole practice is so difficult right now. Uh, uh. So if you are strong mentally, let's say your mindfulness can be strong, your concentration strong, then it's going to determine how fast or how slow that your practice is going to go. So the second one, so the third one is easy but slow. Sometimes there are people I've also met. They don't have much of thinking and sleepiness. Their mind is quite alert. But then having a hard time to progress. They come into the rising, falling. They can notice rising, notice the sensation, but they cannot penetrate what is going on. They cannot know what is going on. It's just there. As you tell them, carry on, but it just cannot. Their mind is wholesome. More or less, they don't have much of all this sleepiness or drowsiness or thinking so much. Very little. And yet, we thought that they can practice further, but then the reality is that their wholesome state of mind, their sharpness is quite weak. Of course, you have less defilement and very strong factor. Then that means you can practice quite well without much sleepiness. Then progress goes very fast. This type of people like very much in during the Buddha's time. Nowadays, what do you think you are? What do you think you? Which one you are? Which one you think you are? You are there. Difficult and slow. At least you acknowledge it. Difficult and slow. Difficult here doesn't mean that you're just practicing with samatha or jhana or this one. Samatha jhana or samatha here also fall within this four category. Not doesn't mean that you put there a quick realization because you have jhana and no jhana. Not that. Of course, jhana does help. But if you're already in the beginning defilements, when you practice jhana, defilements also follow you. Doesn't mean that the defilements don't follow you. I mean, you practice samatha. Beginning part also, it's not as easy as you think it is because if you are strong in your defilement, samatha also is going to be difficult for you to progress. You see what I mean? It's not about pain. So please don't miss. the this one. Even next time, let's say you practice samatha very well, you use all your jhana and you come into vipassana. All your samatha jhana, let's say, and then after that you switch over to vipassana. You come into vipassana, you also still feel the pain, you still feel pain here and there. Does not mean that there's no pain. People thought they go samatha, come out, no pain, everything's smooth. Not like that. True nature of pain in various forms. You don't see dukkha. And if you don't see dukkha, how are you going to change your perception from your attachment to sukha into seeing the true nature of dukkha? You cannot. So you need to see the dukkha too. So sometimes misconception a lot. A lot they thought that come out samatha meditation, go vipassana, everything is oiled. Your path is all oil and then you just glide through into nibbana. It's not like that at all, yeah. Mm. No, as I said, okay. So this is this one, Now, how do you cultivate metta in your heart? You want to cultivate metta frequently. There's no such thing as you do it one time, twice, and then you have the metta. No, metta is just like metta or metta, loving kindness, or even karuna, compassion, and so on. Those qualities of the mind, wholesome mental qualities of the mind, you need to exercise them for them to develop. You need to exercise them. Now, there are several ways that we can do. You go to a retreat. Let's say you want to develop metta. You go to a retreat which they teach metta, let's say. Then learn to feel the metta and cultivate that metta to bring the metta out. Then, in your everyday life, then you go to anywhere that you do it more frequently. Stuck in the traffic jam, let's say. May all of us here be well and happy. May all of us here be safe. Can instead of you curse everything in front of you, you know, instead of you get so frustrated, is it? May all of us here be well and happy. Yeah? May all beings around here be well and happy. Yeah? A lot of times when I go in places to go for hiking and all that thing, so I say, may all beings, seen or unseen, be well and happy. As I might, wherever I do, I I radiate metta too. Not every time mindful, not all the time like that. But because you change, actually, when you do different areas of this samatha or this metta, it cultivates another area, and it can be very helpful, very complementary to the vipassana. Very complementary to it. That's why the Buddha asks us to cultivate metta. So make it a habit if you want to, when you do everything in your life, to cultivate that metta. Of course, sometimes you need a lot of reminders. If you don't have people to remind you, you stay on your own without especially without the Dharma support, the Dharma friends to support you, then we tend, like for example, some of you like staying in New York, stay in California, stay in there, stay here, stay far away. And then the community that you are staying there perhaps may not have Dharma friends or Dharma fellowship to able to help to support you. So that time it's very easy for you to forget because you are so attached to the worldly life. And looking at over here, you'll be looking at like grandchildren, taking care of grandchildren, taking care of this and that, and you forget everything. So not so easy. So we have to have people to remind us, or you have a supportive conditioning so that we can able to remember this thing. So try if you can. Just keep trying to do it again and again. Then it'll be very helpful in the long run. You don't see As it come up, slowly, bit by bit, you feel the metta coming in. Hmm? Next question. I don't think I can answer this question. How to skillfully maintain a relationship with a 93-year-old mom who is unloving and greedy? I teach meditation. I'm not a family counselor. And all this type of counseling thing, I'm not good at it. Sometimes we think that the monks can do everything. Superman can do everything from counseling to mental health issue and everything. We thought that we all can do. We don't do that. I I'm not in that area. So if you have the 93-year-old mother who is unloving and greedy, I'm not sure. Perhaps you have to. You cannot change people. You finally, as far as I go in my Dharma life, I need to know how to change myself. When I change myself, it's the people around us will see, look at me, then they also will change slowly. But my job here is to, we give you guidance and so on. But truly, can we change all? It's very difficult for us to change our, as the saying goes, the leopard is not so easy to change their spots. It's not that easy. So as I said, you can only change yourself. You change yourself, people around you will be affected in a wholesome way, in a good way. Okay? Question. In 2023, when and where will Bhante hold retreats? Will Bhante come to Texas again to 2023 to hold retreats? If so, when? That I'm not sure yet. That later after this retreat we'll discuss about it. But mostly my retreats will be in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia, and like Indonesia sometimes, or once in a while also in Europe also. But here also I try to come here like every year. But past 2 years, of course, we cannot travel much. But next year also, we are begin to look into it also around this time. So whatever retreat, you can check with Lewan or the organizing people. They organize, they invite me, I come. They don't invite me, then I don't come. So you check with the organizer. That truly fixed yet, but we'll let you know later on, or you check with her. Yes.
Next time, can you please teach some other meditation?
There's always we can consider. Why not? But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
I think it will be great if you can teach.
Vipassana is more interesting. Actually, Vipassana is more interesting. Not to say, but Vipassana has more things to learn. That what you learn very much when you look into the sutta next time, you feel more connected with exactly what the Buddha says. This is my advice. But of course, we still can learn, no problem. But we'll see next time. Promises. No promises. Okay, so that's it about for tonight.